everybody, how you doing? Looks like we made it to yet another Wednesday. I hope everyone is having a great week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate that. So let's see who we have today. We have, hey David, Mr. Lee Trevino, great to see you, my friend. How are you? And we have Mr. Steve Lang all the way from the UK. Great to see you, mate. And we have JC. Great to see you. How's everything? So I'm so glad you're here. We have Color Graphics, Mr. Roy, all the way from Jersey. And then we have John Payne from Total Payne Enterprise. Always amazing to see you from upstate New York. And we do have, let's see who else. Mr. Diekman, all the way from Wisconsin. How are you today, sir? So glad you are here. And let's see, Mr. Clutch Pyro, Patrick, great to see you. How's it going? And he's out of Massachusetts. And then we have Colette out of Wisconsin. So great to see you. We have Blue out of Rockville Center, New York. Great to see you. And let's see who else. Now, where is the Nameless? Someone said the Nameless. I don't see Nameless subscriber just yet. So let's see. So great to see everybody. Hey Raul, how you doing? Another Jersey boy. So good to see you. So we got the Jersey people in the house. So that's great. So we are here for part 4. How is the sound and how is the picture, my friends? Let me know. So I could. I don't have the air conditioner on, but I do have the fan. It is currently 63 degrees. And that is amazing. I wish it was like that all summer long. I'd be one happy painter. That's for certain. So both good. Thank you so much. Everyone's telling me the sound quality is great. That is so cool. So I'm very happy about that. So here we are for part 4. And so I hope everyone is doing great. What I want to do is I want to dedicate tonight's live stream to my my mentor, my teacher, somebody who I studied with, I was blessed to study with, and we lost them today, or I believe yesterday, Harvey Dinnerstein. So this live stream is dedicated to him. Without him, without studying with him, I wouldn't be half the artist I am today. So that I want to say, and you know, God bless him and his family. And it's a bit of a sad day, but you know, this is in honor of him and his tireless teaching and inspiration. As a young man, he really was able to rein in all my enthusiasm and channel it, and just, you know, become an artist that, you know, one day I could have students like him and teach. So thank you everybody for your condolences. I really appreciate that. It's a terrible loss for the art world. Terrible, terrible loss. But I know he's painting in heaven, probably having a great time with his pastels, and you know, so okay, so let's go ahead and let's have a lot of fun with tonight's live stream. And so my picture, of course, is in Pure Ref. Highly recommend Pure Ref. Can't recommend Pure Ref enough. Raquel, let me get my picture of Raquel. So as I was looking at this during the week, I realized that her teeth, remember, things are round and they go towards the light and away from the light. And her teeth are a round shape, right? Like a cylinder. So they're light over here and they start going dark as they turn away from the light. Just as, you know, her whole face, you know. So it's turning away from the light, you know. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Patrick. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, he was just an amazing artist. Ugh, just amazing. Wonderful, wonderful. You know, a lot of times I think, you know, the sacrifices I made to become an artist, and I didn't go and, you know, go for the money, but when I think about the fact that I was able to study with Harvey, that is something that, money can't buy. And I am vindicated for my choices that I got to study with such a great man. So let's see, we're going to go ahead and we are going to work on her teeth. And remember, don't be afraid of the pencil, right? The pencil is something that we've been playing with since we were little, right? So you're always more skilled with the pencil. So in any areas, thank you so much, JC, and thanks, Tone, and everybody. I appreciate that. So as you can see, I'm just going to shape her incisor right here. Teeth are difficult. And so this incisor comes out. Angles are everything. They really are. And they're everywhere. So we have to know the angles. No way around it. The angles have to be on the money. And one angle will have like a chain reaction to other angles. So it's best to always try and get the angles as perfect as possible. And then we just see part of the outside of members. A lot of times, what's adjacent to the shape will be describing the shape more than the shape itself. Sounds confusing, but if you really think about it, the adjacent shape usually is, a lot of times, describes the shape more than the shape itself. Hey Todd, good to see you. Hey Willie, good to see you guys. So glad you're here. Tone is here. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming, my friend. Then we're going to come here with just this little bit. What do you guys think of the musical introduction? What do you guys think of that? I thought it was something fun and different. Hey Matt, how you doing? Happy hump day to you as well. And so we have a really nice group today. I'm so happy everybody is here. You guys are really making my Sunday special, my Wednesday special. Yes. We're just going to come over here. Make sure we get our beautiful smile correct, right? It's so important. We have to get that beautiful smile correct. So this comes out over here, although it's going to be very much in shadow. And this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Because we have to get this negative shape right here. That has to, let me move that over. That negative shape really has to be on the money. There we go. So there's like a lot of space here, a lot of negative space here, but there is just, we can see her gum right here. And we don't have to be so literal. We just have to get, an idea of it, right? Get those big shapes and the rest fall together, right? That's important. Ah, Steve, take care. I'm so sorry you're not feeling good, my friend. And I hope you get to a dentist where you can, they can take care of you and take care of that toothache, my friend. And thank you so much for coming by this Wednesday. I want to let you know you're doing great work and so You're so amazing. So thank you. Mr. Leahy, how are you, sir? Good to see you. So glad you're here. So I want to talk a little bit as I'm doing this. So I was a young man growing up in New York City, and I was very fortunate because I grew up there during my formative years, my 12, 13, I was like 14, 15, 16, 17. So I made it into the High School of Art and Design, and that was great. And I had a wonderful teacher there. His name was Erwin Greenberg, among many others, and just a fantastic teacher. And I learned my love for classical painting and all of that, and it was just a wonderful experience. And Erwin Greenberg's friend was Harvey Dinnerstein because he was a whole part of that social realist movement that was going on in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in New York City. So I graduated from the High School of Art and Design, and then I took a couple of years to go to college and learned art history. And then after art history, I went to the Art Students League, and I was studying there, and I really wanted to get into Harvey Dinnerstein's class. It was really the most sought after of classes, but it was always filled up. So I was studying with another teacher who was great, George Passantino, a big proponent of the Riley method. And you can see the Riley method everywhere in, Steve Gibson's whole Grays comes from the Riley method. So I studied with him. He was a student of Riley back in the early 20th century. So with that being said, I was really bummed because I wanted to study with Harvey. So one day I'm in the Art Students League and I'm kind of sitting there in the lobby, kind of upset, right? Because I can't get into Harvey Dinnerstein's class. So I'm there during lunch, and what am I, like 18, 19 years old? And I'm like, this sucks, I want to get into Harvey's class. So I'm sitting there, and in walks Mr. Greenberg, my high school painting teacher. He says, hey, Tim, how you doing? How's it going? And I'm like, I'm okay. He says, you don't look okay. He's like, yeah, I want to get into Harvey's class, but I can't get in because it's filled up. And as I said that, no exaggeration, in walks Harvey Dinnerstein. And I'm like, oh my God, like as you mention someone and they walk in the room, it's like, whoa, what's that, right? And so they walk in, hey Wendy, how you doing? He walks in and Mr. Greenberg says, hey Harvey, how you doing? Because they're old friends. I want you to meet one of my gang who studied with me in high school, Timothy. He's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing okay, and I didn't mention anything. So out of nowhere, Greenberg says, hey, Tim wants to get into your class here at the Art Students League. Is that possible? And so Harvey says, no, I can't. However, I could get him into my class at the National Academy School of Fine Art. I didn't even know that place existed. It's a much better school. So he says, why don't you come by on Monday. That was a Friday. And he came by, looked at my work, and he's like, wow, your work's really, I really like your work and everything like that. And so now he says, okay, you're in the class. And that's how I got into Harvey Dinnerstein's class, and I was in his class for almost 4 years. And I became a merit scholarship student, and it was just one of the really greatest experiences of my life, really shaped me as a painter. And it's just, that's how it happens, And at that point, I was toying with going into, something more lucrative, something like maybe production design or something like that. I was almost going to go into the Center for the Media Arts there, and I would have gone into something much more commercial. And I'll tell you, just like there are a few moments in our life that really change the direction of where we go. And that was one of those moments when I said to Greenberg, I can't get into Harvey's class and I'm just so bummed. And in walks Harvey. And so that's how it happened. And that's where I learned about pastels. I learned how to make the surfaces. I learned how to pose the model. All that really shaped who I am as a painter. And I'll tell you, it was just amazing. The way fate kind of happens. Hey, Blue, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Blue with the wonderful donation. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. And your support is always so needed and so welcome. And I love the artwork you're doing, Blue. And keep up the good work. And how's your finger doing? I know you hurt your finger. Let me know how you're doing. Hopefully you're healing up. Now, is that keeping you from airbrushing? And as you see when I zoom out, you can see how her smile is really coming together. Now the great thing with this technique, we can leave pencil lines in there. We don't have to get rid of them. Pencil lines are your friend, right? But what I want to do is I want to get the gum line perfect. So you see it's a little higher in this particular incisor here. So we want to make sure we get that. And you have plenty of time to get it right. You don't have to, you definitely don't have to rush it, right? You can just very slowly. And you see I'm going to dust the teeth a little bit. So when I come in with the highlights, they're really going to pop, which is going to be really nice. And I want to get this negative space. That's in between the lower lip and the teeth. And sometimes you might have some areas that are a little too contrasty, and you can just calm them down with your eraser, which is really good. And let's see. Hey David, how you doing? Great to see you, sir. How's it going? So I'm so glad you're here, and thank you so much, Blue, for the super sticker. I really appreciate. Sorry I didn't see it right away. I was just so engrossed with, working on her teeth. Smiles are always very difficult. They're not easy to do, as you all know. And let's see. So. David, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir. That means so much, honestly. And I just want to say thank you for all the support. Those who are buying my airbrushes and the super chat stickers and buying the inks and the paper. That really helps me to continue this without worries of having to go out and, do other things besides my art and besides, teaching everybody. So what's the next best thing to go into art school is to watch a live stream, someone teaching you who went to and studied with Harvey Dinnerstein. So, and blessed, and it's so great because I can go ahead and share my experience with you. And it's almost, like a lot of times when you hear me talking when I'm painting, a lot of it comes from those years when I was studying with Harvey, when he talks about, all these different aspects of light and dark, and don't go dark too early, and, stick with it, and anchor points and stuff like that. All comes from Harvey, And Steve Leahy says, Tim, is there a big amount of development difference between a painting that will be all ink as opposed to an underpainting for a pastel, or are they similar? That's a fantastic question, Mr. Leahy. So basically, there's a little bit of difference in mindset, right? So when I'm doing a regular painting, I'm sort of all in, right? This is my only medium, and I'm going to build it up from light to dark as I would with the underpainting. But the difference with doing a painting like this, which is is going to be the art form in itself, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build it up slowly, but I'm going to get a little more detail. So my end goal is further down the road than an underpainting. Now, with that being said, we have similar goals when we're doing an underpainting for a pastel, but the difference is that we want to get as much detail as possible, but we don't want to put too much detail that it's going to overshadow the pastel. So when it's an underpainting, it basically is in support of the pastel. So we're not going to be as finished, and we're going to keep that in a less finished state, but we're going to put as much detail as possible, right? We're going to put as much detail as possible, but we're going to keep it about, so for those camera buffs out there, 1 to 2 steps lighter so than the finished painting. So everything, all the values are going to be about 2 values lighter than if I was going to paint it as an India ink painting. Now why? Let me put on the air conditioner. Now the main reason we want to keep it lighter, because when we put subsequent layers of, let's say, pastel or acrylic, what we're doing is we're going to darken it, because each time you put a layer of anything, light is going to be obstructed, so the painting is going to get darker the more layers you put on there. So as you darken it, it's going to, as you put more layers, it's going to darken. So if we were going to do an underpainting that had the exact values at the end, when we put in the color, we'll make it much too dark. And that's, we want to arrive. So, you know, my whole painting method is arriving at the perfect color, the perfect value and everything, as opposed to nailing it as we go. So that's a really good question. So the thinking is the same, but the end goal is different. So just to condense it, for an underpainting, I go lighter and a little less detailed. When it's going to be full-blown India ink, it's a much more slower process, but the destination is just total value and detail. So sorry about the long answer, but I hope it helped, definitely. So glad you're here, Wendy. Oh, thank you, Stephen. I really appreciate that question. Definitely. It's an important thing because there is a difference. If you go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, if you ever get to go in New York City, they have this wonderful ingres grisaille. And a grisaille is just a French word for underpainting, right? And and you'll see it's the Grand Odalisque, and he did many versions of it. And it's still in gray, so he didn't get to paint it. So you can see in that grisaille that, you know, there's a lot of detail, but the values are just a little bit lighter than the finished painting. 1 to 2 values. If you're a photography person, about 1 stop lighter. Now, one of the things that I'm looking at here is I want to make sure that I am getting the value differentiation from here to here, and I don't think I'm quite there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dust this side. I'm going to be about 3 inches away, and I'm just going to very slightly dust this side so I get more of a feeling of turning, and that's what I want. I want to feel that turning of the forms, and I want to feel the light as it's moving across Raquel. And when you really, you know, try and interpret that feeling of light turning across the forms, it's really nice because you start to get an impression that you were there at that moment that this photograph was taken. And that's what we want, right? I mean, I'm not an impressionist by any means, don't get me wrong, but the impressionists wanted you to feel the experience of vision, right? Of a moment. And one of the great things I love about photography, and photographers talk about this, I don't hear painters talk about this enough, is about moment. And oh, sorry about the hat in the way. I'm going to make sure I don't do that. About moment, right? And I love when photographers talk about moment. And so that's what I really want to do. I want to get that feeling of moment and that feeling of emotion and the transient quality of light and atmosphere and emotion. And I want that to be about my work. I want my work to be about that. And so, and I'm getting that from my study of photography. And I can't really stress enough how photography has really, just at my age, has really made me feel like I have so much to learn, and there's a whole new world that I didn't explore. And photography is really making a big difference in my work. And where's Patty? Hey Patty, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. How's work going? Oh, David's down in Brownsville. That's just outside of Mexico, am I right, sir? Because I remember I had clients there when I used to have an office job. And oh no, that's true. I could have, but that was Raquel's hat, so that would have been good if I put a Inkflingers logo on that. That is such a good idea. I gotta do that next time I get someone to model for me. Make them, ask them, not make them, ask them to wear an Inkflingers hat and T-shirt for me. That would be funny. So now you can see, as I am kind of bringing in, kind of lowering the values on this side, I'm getting that youthful quality of Raquel, and I love it. And that's what I was after when I actually took this photo. Now it's interesting because the values, like in her lips, are darker, but not by much. So we have to make sure that we don't go too dark, right? And we don't want too much contrast because that would be counterproductive. And let's see if I can come over here and just check on. Don't be afraid to use the pencil, okay? The pencil is such an important tool, and definitely take advantage of that pencil, okay? It's so important, so crucial. So in the airbrush I have the detail mixture, and with the detail mixture I have 4 drops of detail mixture and 4 drops of water in the Extreme Patriot Arrow, and you can see I have just this incredible amount of detail that is afforded to me with this combination. Hey Mr. Mike S., how you doing? Good to see you. Very cool. Oh, nice. So I would love to see that flame painting when you're done, Mr. Mike S. So I put the camera back a little further so we won't have any obstruction from the hat. So that's good. Just want to make sure that the angle of everything is angles. Remember that. Everything. You have to get those angles right. If you don't, it's not going to look right, unfortunately. So it's sort of, you get one angle wrong and it just creates this chain reaction of angles that are incorrect. Very low contrast in here, very low. Now over here, you see I have this little value change, but I have a little line here. And I don't see it as much, so I'm going to actually try and get rid of that. So sometimes when you're working on a painting, you'll have a feeling of, you know, where you're going with it. Is it going to be a painterly picture? Is it going to be linear? And I'm sure, you know, everyone out there who's a painter knows the feeling where I did not know the painting was going to take on that direction, right? I had no idea. And I think that's what's happening with this painting, that it's having a very sketchy kind of, you know, pencil kind of feeling with this. And I didn't know going into it, but it really is having that kind of informal. So now when you see I'm coming in with this lighter value here, it's really interesting because it's a very form describing shape right in here. And as I put that in, you're going to see that we're going to really just take it to the next level just by coming in lighter here. It really shapes her face. It's not so full, and it's more like her. And I love when that happens. So it's a whole thing of just sticking with the program, right? You have to stick with the program. If you don't, you're going to be like a ship that is like tossing to and fro in the ocean without a rudder, without a sail. So have your direction and stick with that direction. If you feel it's not going the way that you planned, don't panic. Just stick with the program. And you know what? Better to go down with the ship sticking with a program than, you know, just taking the sail down and hoping for the best. So that's the same thing. You know, at first I was like, with this painting, it's like, I don't know if it's looking like Raquel, I'm not sure. But with my experience, I know that you just have to, the best thing is to just quietly continue. Like when you're playing chess, there are a lot of times when it looks like nothing is happening, right? And instead of making a big decision move, you make like a quiet move in chess. And you pretty much want to see what your opponent's going to do. So that's when you make what is called a quiet move. And then in the same thing here with airbrushing, or painting for that matter, when you're doing portraits. So you might feel like you're not getting the likeness, but that's when you just gotta stick with it and make quiet moves. Don't try and do things just so you're like, oh my God, I'm not getting the likeness, I'm just gonna go ahead and continue, you know? David, have a great night, my friend. I really appreciate all that you do for the channel, and I look forward to talking to you very soon, my friend. So great, thank you. So as you can see, we are continuing to try and get some of those beautiful translucent lights that are in the shadow, right? A lot of your lights, when you're working in a painting like this, a lot of the details are in the shadow. Don't get mistaken that shadows don't have detail, as just this black void. No, there's light in there. And where there's light, there's detail. Where there's complete black, yeah, that's a shadow. But there's light happening in here. And my job is to find those lights to describe the form. Let's see here. I'm just going to continue. So there's form over here in her cheek, right? So I'm just going to very lightly with Now this is an aggressive eraser, and that's something I want to talk about. Although you have an aggressive eraser, it doesn't mean that you have to be aggressive with it. You can definitely just do beautiful, soft erasing with an aggressive eraser. It's all how you use it. Now over here, there's a real softness here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a less aggressive eraser, and this is the Mono Knock. I think it's a 3.4, and that's by Tombow. And I'm just going to lightly kind of this sort of Terminator line here. I'm just going to soften it and kind of soften and define at the same time. So what's happening here, you have light coming from the separation light that I had, right? So I took this photo, and I had, in this photo I had two light sources. I had the main light, which was 45 degrees above her and to the camera left. And then I had a kicker light, which was behind her, 45 degrees. And that's why you're getting this light here. So with a light source here and a light source kind of describing her beautiful side of her cheek here, there's two light sources in this spot, so there's going to be this little area that isn't getting light from either. And that's why you're seeing this dark line here. So why is that important? Because it's important to understand the light when you're painting. When you're painting the portrait. The more you understand the light, the more you're going to be accurate with the study of her form, because her form is described by what? The shadows? No. Her form is described by the light. And you might say, well, hey Tim, there's light and shadow. What are you talking about? Without light, there would be no shadow. So, you know, light doesn't need shadow, because you can put light on a white wall and there will be no shadow. So light is the most important thing. So that's why you always want to try and describe the form, the light, and also try and understand it. Even in just your head, if you try and recreate the light in your head, then you're going to be much better at describing it. So the more you just, you know, the more that you can describe it, the better your painting will be. Wow, thank you, Brad. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Thanks, Brad, for the super chat. Brad, David, and Honey, I really appreciate that. Blue says she's going to finish watching the feed in the morning, early wake up. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your encouragement, Blue. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Brad, and thank you, David, for your support tonight. I really appreciate that. And to allow me to continue this, it really is, it means a lot to me. You know, we need that encouragement, and it's a pretty lonely job, you know, and it's a great job, but it's very lonely, and sometimes you're wondering if you're doing the right thing. But when you guys support the channel by, you know, buying the airbrushes, the super chats, everything like that, I really feel like, okay, I'm doing something that people like, enjoy, and appreciate. And so that really gives me all this energy. So I use my freehand shield. I want to get that dimple of hers. And let's see. So I know I'm going slow, but we have to go slow, right? We have to take our time. We take our time, we're going to get there, right? It's important. So very cool. So thanks, Blue. It's always great to see you. I really appreciate you. Okay. Over here, we're just going to pull this down. So this angle of her smile here, this just goes down a little bit. All these little angle changes are just going to go a real long way to describe the forms. There we go. Just want to bring that smile out the best that I can. Okay, so we're doing really great with the light and darks here, and we're just going to continue. We don't want to only work on that. Remember, we want to paint the ensemble. If I go way too far with just painting, her face and her portrait and not worry about the other areas, it's not going to have balance, and we really need balance, right? It's so important. So we're just going to leave that alone for a while, and we're going to move on over. Whoop, let me see here. This curls in a lot more. There we go. Okay. So let's go and move on over to her blouse. And remember last week we were doing these like really interesting anchor points, right? With her blouse. And we're going to continue that. These are some nice anchor points right down here. Patrick, have a great night, my friend. Always a pleasure. And I think you are doing great with your artwork, and so proud of you, and I hope to see you soon, my friend. Thank you so much. Clutch is a really, really talented artist, and we're working together, and it's such a pleasure. Oh, Patty is up past her bedtime. I'm so happy that you came and hung out with me, Patty. It's so great and hang out with us. So thank you for all your support and participation. It means everything to me. And I hope to see you on Saturday, because now we're doing the Saturday portrait painting in pastel. So that's going to be part 3, because we're really getting into the subsequent layers after the underpainting, and then the initial layer of pastel, the block in. So let's continue over here. Pretty soon we're going to be coming in with the white pastel. I feel it. But we're just going to continue with some of these. Let me raise this up a little bit. Go. And you see how we're just very slowly developing the tonal patchwork here. The blouse is very close in value, so it's a white blouse, and it's, oh, let's see what it says. Let's see what people are saying. Oh, cool. So I'm so glad that I reminded you guys about the pastel. JC says, Tim, you boosted the pastel industry. Blick is out of pit pastels. Really? That's actually fascinating. So I should get a cut, right, Willie? Definitely. That's amazing. I don't know if I have that much influence in the pit pastel world, but it is interesting. So, and also marble dust is at a premium right now. It's just really interesting, the supply and demand of what's going on. I'm going to very lightly put in some of these values here. It's going to be nice when we, come in with the white pastel. Remember, use that pencil. Pencil is your friend, my friend. There we go. Keep that 1 second rule going, my friends. There we go. Less is always more. And we can erase this line. But before we do that, let's go ahead and hit that line. Okay, so we have the other side of her blouse here. Boy, when we hit that white pastel, things are really going to look up. Things are really going to pop, and that's what we're really building on, right? We're building like a fireworks display, which will be coming soon here in the United States, next, like, what, 3 weeks? And, you know, the beginning of the fireworks, it just slowly builds up, and then you get this crescendo at the end. And I like to think that my method of working in the airbrush as that, you know, since I work very slowly and deliberately, and then eventually I get to the crescendo at the end. The white pastel and the dark mixture just brings everything together. This pencil line right here is actually for the shadow, and then I'm going to get rid of that pencil line. Then we have this pencil line right here. That's not there yet. We're going to put it in. When Steve says Blick is his go-to, yeah, it is, unfortunately, for all of us. And that's the rough thing, because, you know, I find Blick doesn't have, because lack of real competition, doesn't have much incentive to try and give us the best prices anymore. A little bit dark over here, so I have to calm this down. In the movie LA Story, Mary Lou Henner, in this very small scene, she's getting ready for a date, and she has this like beautiful ensemble, and she says to Steve Martin, she says, close your eyes, then look in the mirror, and whatever you see first has to go. And I think that is the same thing with painting. If you're working on a painting and you see something really fast, and, you know, and it's too dark, then usually it has to go. It has to be adjusted. So you see, I've seen this area, which is too dark. It's something that I've seen the second I closed my eyes and opened it. And that's a good indication on what you need to get rid of, right? So keep that in mind next time you're looking at a painting and you're assessing it. You know, whatever you see first that stands out, it doesn't quite belong, has to go. You might be putting that back in later down the line, but initially that has to go. So always think about that. Let's see. Okay, you guys are having some really interesting conversations. That's great. So now I'm going to get my kneaded eraser, because I need it, and we're going to just put this over here. I'm just going to erase that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase the line that separates these two values of the shirt and the blouse, right? And that blouse is going to be very fun to do. So right here on her neck is very interesting, and I'm actually going to bring her neck in a little further. So I'm just going to just thin out her neck a little bit more. I think I had the neck a little too thick. So bring that in just a little bit like that. And also her neck is much longer, so it comes down like so. But what I like, if we look at her photo, right? Let's take a look at her photo. I want you to see, like normally I would say, let's leave out that little part, but I'm painting light, and I want to really paint the interest of light, right? Light is really interesting to me lately. So I'm going to go over here. Let's see. Hey Nameless, how you doing? Good to see you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this picture of Raquel, and I'm going to make it large. And I took this photo in my studio. Raquel was very nice, and I really appreciate that she posed for me. It means a lot to me. She took time out of her day to pose for me. See this little bit of light that's kind of escaping through the back of her hair? I really like that. So even though it's going to be like, what is that, Tim? I still want to do it. So that's going to be something that I want to do. Normally, as a portrait painter, if this was a commission piece, I wouldn't do it because the client would be like, what's that, right? But I want to, this is my own painting, so I'm going to actually go ahead and paint that. So let's zoom in and take a look. Okay, so now I'm just going to, with the same detail mixture, I'm just going to get a little bit darker. And then right under here is a cast shadow. And then we have this beautiful cast shadow here. Comes over here like this. But right in here, this little corner, it's nice and dark right here. Okay, so you see that little beautiful patch of light. It's not time to come in with the white pastel, but my mind and my thinking are going, I'm going to get there when it's time and put in the white pastel. While I'm here, I'm going to really shape this dark that's between the blouse and her chest here. Oh, cool. So glad you're here, my friend. Always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by. So I really appreciate you, Nameless. There we go. We'll come over here. Just want to shape her ear a little bit. There we go. And I can see I'm a little overzealous here. I'm just going to lighten up the shadow, the form shadow in her ear, right on her ear. Just lighten that up. Like I said, it's all setting up for those super darks and those lights, you know. Oh, Willie has a question. Let's see. Where is Willie says, Tim, how do you get beautiful women to model for you without sounding creepy? I guess that's the artist condition as far as a male artist, right, Willie? I find there are times where, you know, I'll ask people to model, and a lot of people will pose for me. I paint women, so there are times when I get like 3 or 4 women at a time pose for me, and there are times like right around now, I'm kind of at a cold streak. The people I ask have said no, and of course that's their prerogative. But yeah, I mean, they don't know me, and it's difficult. I found, Willie, when I had a regular job working at an office, that I was able to have access to people, and they knew I wasn't like a crazy person, and they said yes. But now I'm asking more people I don't see on a day-to-day, and a lot of times I'll ask them and I'll say, hey, would you like to pose for me? And they'll initially say yes, and then I'll go and I'll ask them I'll say, okay, are you available this week? And then they just won't answer me. And what are you going to do? It's the nature of it, right? It's the nature of the whole situation. It's a weird question to ask somebody. And I'm not hitting on them. I'm just asking them to pose. And it was great that Raquel, she agreed to pose. We went to high school together. So that was really good. That was very fortuitous of me. And she turned out to be an amazing model. Just amazing. And it was just fantastic. A lot of times in the past, when I had models, I would use a model a lot because, again, so there's several things when you use a model over and over again. One, they're used to you. And number 2, they get more and more comfortable behind the camera, in front of the lens, and I get more comfortable with them, and that's when the real great poses happen. When you get a model you could paint, a lot. Sometimes 3 at a time. That's the way it works, And then there's some times where there's no models in sight, and that happens. So my guest says he think I should use Brad Pitt's photo and also tell people that. Well, no, that's actually hilarious, Mike. But no, I have to be totally truthful, and it is. You're right, Mike. It is kind of a funny thing because when you tell total the truth. I'm just an artist, and I would love to paint you. A lot of people would kind of almost be offended by that. Who are you to ask me, right, Mike? So that happens. Hey, Mr. Deloach, how you doing? And yeah, it's a really tough situation. But the truth is always the best. And I am such a gentleman. I always make sure that it's always 100% professional. And just treat them like the stars that they are, right? I feel like they are. They're like stars, and I'm so honored to have somebody pose for me. Of course, they have to have that look, whatever it is I'm looking for, and that helps. Being an artist, you're limited to what you're looking for, right? Doesn't mean that if you don't paint somebody, it's because they're not as beautiful. It's just not the look that you're after. That's all it is. There are times, in a day-to-day, I might find someone interesting to pose, but I say to myself, if I see them again, then I'll do it. But, you don't want to go like, oh my God, I need to paint you. They're going to run or call the cops. It's not easy. Then when I was married, it was a lot easier. She was also an artist, and I would have her ask, and that was a lot easier because we would use a model together, right? JC says, I wanted to paint him, but he would charge me a lot of money. That's funny. That's true, you know. Okay, so let's continue with her chest area. And remember, 5 inches away gives you a very nice spray. So I'm going to be 5 inches away, and I'm just going to very lightly keep the 5 inches. Now the trick is when you're at 5 inches, pretend you can't go any further, right? So you can't go any closer, any further away. It's going to assure you an even coverage, and that's what you want. Well, it's a good thing. I just want to photograph them, right? That's what it is. I used to, you know, when I came out of the academy, I used to paint from life. So when they posed for me, they would have to pose for like a whole week, 3 hours a day for a whole week. And that was not easy. Then you know, in my 20s, I said, I can't afford that. So, and my female friends would not pose that long. So then I finally, you know, gave in and started doing just pencil, you know. Oh, that's great. Yes, Wendy would make a beautiful subject. Yes. Wendy's a very lovely lady, that's for sure. And let's see, come over here. There we go. So you see how we're really bringing that in, and it's coming along, not so quickly, but slowly. Oh, cool. Wendy's free. Perfect. Wendy might be free, but she's worth $1 billion. And who's saying goodnight? Oh, take care, Mike. Have a great night. Always a pleasure. So I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you came by. So let's work on this side of her blouse here. Let's use our freehand shield. So this is the one moment where perpendicular is not the way to go, parallel, because you just want that line, right? You want that hard line there. So that's where you would go with parallel and not perpendicular. But here you would go with perpendicular again, parallel again, because you just want that hard edge. There we go. And we'll come right over here. Perfect. Okay. So when you're doing a portrait, you have to make sure you pay attention to the whole, right? You have to not just pay attention to her face, but also the hair and her neck and chest, her dress, or her blouse in this case, and the hat, and kind of move all along, you know? Very important. Oh, Wendy's going to Rhode Island in October. Oh, that's kind of chilly in October in Rhode Island, isn't it, Mr. Leahy? Out there? Well, you can have the Indian summer, right? You have those hot, balmy October days that happen. But usually it's pretty cold over there. I'm going to take a quick water break here, so let's see. So we have a real healthy group today, so I really appreciate that. Yes, that's Mr. Willie's neck of the woods, right? So is it sort of a wild card in October where it is, it could be hot and cold? You're very similar to us in New York, you guys out in Massachusetts, New England area, but you guys are just slightly a little slightly colder than we are. Not by much, but just slightly, right? I feel. Hey, there's my cat. Hi. Meow. What do you want? What? She wants to eat, but not now. I fed. No, she. You know, it's funny. My cat has food in the dish, and oh, she is sweet, yes. And what she wants me to do is just to move the food around for her, and then she's okay to eat. But she won't eat it until I move it around. It's so hilarious. Oh, cool. So Tone is actually walking in the city looking to get something to eat while listening. That's pretty neat. John, thank you so much for coming by. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Don't forget, if you're free on Saturday, we're going to be working on the pastel pencil painting. And that's pretty cool because we're getting into the subsequent layers, you know. Oh, wow. Salem is fun. And I actually had my honeymoon when I was in my marriage. I'm not married now, but my honeymoon, we had it in Massachusetts, Boston, and we went to Salem, and that was really an interesting place. Kind of scary, but fun. It really was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. That was actually, the Boston area can be a blast. I really highly recommend it. One of my favorite cities in the world. Beautiful people. I'm Irish, so I've never seen so many Irish people in my life, which was good, you know. It's good to see a lot of people who are, you know, similar background as you. I like diversity too. But that city was full of Irish people. Wow, Salem is a lot of fun. Go to the Witch Museum in Salem. That was cool. Kind of hokey, but fun nonetheless. I'm going to start putting in some of these negative shapes in the hair. And you don't have to be exact with this. You just got to, you know, look at the nature of the shapes, right? So that's important. So that was cool. Always a pleasure to see Mr. Diekman. Thank you so much for coming by. We have a lot of work to do here, but we're going to just take our time. Let's see if we can start doing her necklace here. And what's interesting, this is definitely glasses territory. We're going to paint the necklace as if it's a series of values, not so much as a line, right? Although the lines are going to be the values are going to be very thin, it is a series of values. And let's attack this together. And you see we have some nice pencil lines to work with. And I'm going to start right here. And as you can see, it's kind of broken up. I'm about 2 inches away. And you see we have a dark and a light, and then we have a dark here. We're going to do that just as we're seeing it. And we're just going to continue that dark light process. go. And then we're going to go here as well. So when we're really looking at what we're painting, and stop looking at what it is, but look at what the light is doing as it's hitting it, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to figure out, oh, this is necklace, oh, this is gold. I can't do that. No, it's just a bunch of shapes, and you're just going to paint those shapes. Down here, you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to look at the nature of this, right? And you see that it has these little shapes here. And we're just going to paint in those shapes. And then we'll paint in the lights, and then we'll erase the pencil lines. Some are bigger, some are fatter, you know. And then when we come in with the lights, the eyes are going to fill in the rest. Your eyes are going to fill in the rest. Okay, so now we have this little circular thing here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in this inner circle on the bottom. And then there's this outer circle. And remember, the shape is often described by the adjacent shape more than the shape itself. And today here, that adjacent shape is the cast shadow of this particular necklace here. Now look how much detail we got by just working on that. So we're looking at the nature of the form rather than the form itself, right? Because if you wanted to go ahead and paint that exactly the way it is, you're going to have to spend like 4 hours to do it. But if you look at the work of the old masters, they get a sense of what it is. They're not just being so literal, right? We can't be literal if we want to paint this in a time period that's acceptable. So once again, we're going to look at this necklace, and we're just going to get the characteristics of it. And the characteristics of it is this sort of staccato kind of darks that come in and out. And then we're going to go back with that, with the lights. And you see how airbrush control, you see me when I'm practicing my circles and practicing dots, and also using the Extreme Patriot arrow where you can get detail that kicks the butt of a custom micron, you know. And 0.30 needle noddle combination, mind you. And it's just incredible. And you know, and I use every airbrush out there, and honestly, you don't see me using anything else. When I'm doing commissions, my own work, it's all so important to me. So it's important to me, yet I am still using this airbrush because it's the best out there. For what I want to do, I work small, I do portraits, I need precision. I need this thing to do exactly what I want to do it when it happens. I don't want to be pulling at the needle. I don't want to be worrying about any kind of reduction. I just want it to work coming straight out, you know. The more I could paint, the less I can think about a lot of the technical things is going to be good for me. So now look at it. We set up for, see how we're setting up with that necklace, so when we come in with the white pastel, it just pop that out, maybe some dark dark accents to really bring that all together. So you see how we're playing chess, right? We are definitely working towards the next step or the next 4 or 5 steps, setting things up so they all come together. So right here you see I'm totally set up to finish up with this this necklace. It's the little things, when you do them correctly and you do it throughout the painting, which is really going to take your painting to that next plateau, right? And that's what we're all trying to get. Now, if I squint my eyes and look at the photo from far away, I can definitely see that I have too much contrast here. And, you know, the values are too far away from one another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be about 4 inches away, and I'm just going to dust and bring these values closer. And as you can see, and over here I'm going to be about 6 inches because I want to darken it, but I don't want it as dark as right above the eye. So now I'm actually bringing those values closer and getting more of a feeling of a lighter, happy moment that the painting's about. Rick, how you doing? Great to see you. And so Rick says, spend some time on the tall ship, the Bark Eagle in Portsmouth. Well, that's pretty cool. So that's neat. Mike asks, Tim, do you find small links in necklace or earrings hard to get right? You know, it depends. Great question. So when you're working small like this, you don't want to go ahead and do every little thing like that. So if you look at the great masters, they'll imply it. They're not going to go and be literal and try and get every little link. And that's pretty much what I do. You want the necklace to be an afterthought, a supporting actress, but you don't want it to be the main thing. So if I went in here and did every little link, I could do it. It would almost be like doing a mechanical drawing, right? And it will take away the kind of the spontaneity of the painting. So it's very rare that I'll actually go in there, unless it's a commission and the client's like, you know, this necklace is so important, we want you to go ahead and do that. That would be the only time I would really do that. But if I was to do something like that, I would just make sure that the drawing is super solid and then go from there. Make sure that drawing is super solid and really get in there with the drawing. Okay, and I see some lines here. I'm just going to get rid of any superfluous lines. They don't belong. And right over here, we have this wonderful laugh line right here. Dimple, I should say. Yes. See that? That little beautiful dimple. We'll put that there. There we go. Very fun subject Raquel is. And let's see any questions I might have missed. Wendy says she has to rush to gas up now because last time she was waiting for prices to drop and they went up 60 cents. Wow. While you were waiting? Oh my goodness. So be careful getting the gas, Wendy. Oh, so Willie says the lobster pot in Bristol, Rhode Island used to be good, but I haven't been there since COVID. Now remember, Mr. Leahy did a great painting of the lobster pot, I think, right? Was that the name of the that neon sign? That was really great. Love that painting. Pretty soon we're coming in with that. Oh, so now we can work on her eyebrows a little bit. So let's move her over here and let's zoom in. because we do have, you know, a little more fine detail in her eyebrow, camera left. And let's see if we could make this happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this so I have this really nice chisel. See that chisel on the edge? That's going to give us really fine, super fine lines. Alright, so looking at her eyebrow, there's more negative space in here. So I'm just going to make sure that I very lightly, technical thing with the eraser here. I'm just going to make some negative spaces in here. And when we're doing negative spaces, we have to make sure that we're not uniform. You don't want them equidistant in the same size, right? You want to make sure that it's organic. So important. And as I see here, she has some nice eyelashes here. They're going to come later. But I am making a mental note to come back to that. See how we're shaping that eyebrow, making sure we're getting this negative shape correct. All these seemingly insignificant details really make a big difference when they're all together. Okay, what we do on one eye, we always want to do on the other. So let's look at the other eyebrow and see now there's a lot less detail here, and the values are so close because it's in the so-called shadow area. So as light gets less powerful, it contrasts a lot less. It describes things a lot quieter or more quiet. So let's see if we could figure this out here together. And so you see the angle's a little off, and just an eyebrow with just like a few degrees angle off could really change her expression. So you want to be very careful to make sure that happens. Let me turn off the air conditioner or the fan. One of the things that's giving me a pain in my back. Let's see how that goes. Okay, let's see if I missed any questions. Let's see. So remember, when I said you want to have the characteristics of what you're painting and not worry about what it is, but look at the characteristics. And also the characteristics of light. What does it do when it's further away from the light source? What does it do to a subject when the light is further away? What does the light do to a subject when the light source is small as opposed to large? What does it do if it's more powerful or less powerful? Those are things you always want to master. If you master light, you'll master painting. It's really quite simple. It's not easy, but it's quite simple. But you have to be on the right path. And the right path is learning about light. The right path is not saying, okay, how do I paint this? How do I paint chrome? That's the wrong approach. You shouldn't be thinking about how to paint chrome. How do I paint the light as it interacts with chrome? That's different. How do I paint water as it's in a glass? How do I paint see-through fabric as it's against skin? That's, you really have to see how is the light affected by, going through the see-through skin. How does it affect the light that actually reaches the skin? Then it's a lot easier, or at least you know what you're trying to achieve. But to look at a glass of water and go weak in the knees and say, I can't paint that, see, that's the wrong approach. You should be painting the light and how it's affected as it goes, uh, as the light goes through water. Remember, there's 3 different things that light can do with an object. It could reflect, right? It could be absorbed, or it could be transmitted. So when you see a black hat, that means the light's absorbed. When you see her eyes and you see the reflection, the highlight, light is actually being reflected. But when you see it go through, let's say, a glass of water, light is being transmitted through that water. The light is going through the water, but it's being reacted both physically and also, on a very physical level, right? It actually is slowing down, and then so the light is going at a certain speed, hits the water, slows down, and it seems to bend. And then when it goes to the other side of the glass, it goes at the same speed. So you see the water actually will, let me show you. It's really quite fascinating when you think about it. Light goes at a regular speed like this, but it hits the water, goes much slower, and then when it comes out, it goes at regular speed. So it's very fascinating. But when you start looking at things both on a creative level, but also on a scientific level, that's when you have that killer combination, that your work is just, really touching on something very, very profound. And that's what you want to do. Okay, so I'm very happy with this. I'm just going to soften up, just like I said, I see this jawline a little too much, so I got to make sure that I get rid of that, right? Let's see. Mike S. says, Tim picks the easiest stuff to paint. I can't ever paint whiskey in a glass because it never stays in the glass long enough for me to paint. That's funny. Nameless says, funny you... that because I'm trying to figure out how to paint chains. Working on a piece with a lot of jewelry and silver is tricky. Yeah, definitely, Nameless. You want to simplify it, right? Simplify it, but also really pay attention to the light as it reacts to it. And it really is not that mysterious when you're looking at it that way, right? So give that a try. And do a lot of tests, using the same kind of surface that you're painting on. Test it out, not on your painting, right? You don't want to test things out on your painting, so have a couple of test paintings, and I think that will help you immensely. And this way, when you're going on your own painting, you already made your mistakes, and you already did your trial and errors and your experiments, and then you're just going to have success. Every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought. That's Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and I really feel that's the same with painting. You want to make sure that you have the playing field leveled in your favor. Okay, so let's go on to the hair and the hat, right? We definitely can do that. And let's see. Yeah, I saw a beautiful lighthouse that you were doing not too long, I think last year, and that was amazing, Mr. Leahy. So I never seen anyone paint lighthouses like Mr. Leahy, that's for sure. Just amazing. So we're going to go back to her hat, and let's just sort of shape the light. We have a lot of opaque darks, and so we just want to make sure we get the value change of how dark. Now, as we're getting further along, it's a lot easier to gauge your values because you have a lot of values established. So you can ask yourself, is that hat as dark as the eyes or lighter? Or are they the same value? And that really helps because it's less of a guesswork. And you sort of like, you can gauge from other areas of the painting. It really is a great resource to have once you know it's there. Pretty soon we're going to come in with the light mixture. Start darkening things up a little bit. We're going to use that 2 airbrush method, which is really cool. Hey, welcome back, Patrick. Great to see you again. So cool. We're talking about Massachusetts, so that's really neat, you know. So I know you're going to be interested in that. And Patrick's been in Massachusetts for a while, so he knows a lot about the area. I'm going to use the facilities real quick and talks amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. And for your, let's see. Okay. Be right back, guys. I am back. Great to see yous. Let's see here. Come over here. Okay, great. And so let's go ahead and come over here. Maybe we could, for the last half hour. Now, when I go into the medium mixture, I make sure I do the 2 airbrush method, right? I don't want to go and just stay in, let's say, medium mixture, because what that's going to do is I'm going to cheat and do things that I would rather do in the detail mixture, but I'll try to accomplish them in the medium mixture, and that's wrong. So let me get my other airbrush. And of course it's another Extreme Patriot, but this is the Extreme Patriot 105. I love this airbrush. It's great for backgrounds, so I always have that 1-2 punch. This is customized by me, okay? And let's see if we have the light mixture. I may have to go into my inventory for that. I don't know if I have any light mixture here. Let's see. It's funny, I actually went ahead and cleaned up my studio, so I don't know. Let's see, we got a lot of medium, we got dark, we have some light. Let me go get some light mixture. Be right back. Okay, so here we go. We have the light mixture, and that's the next step up from the detail mixture. And I'm just going to make sure I open this correctly. And I have, now we definitely want to test. Remember, when you put the ink in your airbrush and you have your painting here, please be about 3 inches away, 3 feet. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put 6 drops in here at first because I want to do a gradual darkening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we can take the back of a paintbrush or something to go ahead and mix this. Okay, far away from my painting, I'm right over here. And now this is a crucial step, is I'm going to go ahead and get some paper that's very similar to what I'm working on, and I'm going to test it, right? And let's see. Just going to come over here. Let's test the airbrush. A, make sure the airbrush is operational. B, make sure that the light mixture is what we're looking for. So it's slightly darker than what we were working with. And let's go ahead and let's darken, starting with her eyes, okay? And it's a great way to go ahead and reinforce some of the main features. And we'll put our glasses on. I'm going to start with a large area just to test, and I'm going to clean my glasses here because these are kind of fuzzy. So I'm really excited about Saturday night's live stream at 8 p.m. So definitely come by and hang out. I'd really love to share, you know, all the stuff I learned when I studied with Harvey. And you can see when you start coming in with a darker mixture, it makes the other values which looked really dark before, lightens them up, and that's really exciting, and that's when you really start building things up. Again, I have this airbrush loaded with the detail mixture, and that's because I don't want to do anything that really needs to be done with the detail mixture and do that with the light mixture. That would be bad. So it's very crucial that you have that 2 airbrush method in the later stages. And we are on the later stages of this painting. Look at the control I'm getting with this. Her eye is approximately a ½ inch in size, and I'm able to get that control. That's a $149 airbrush by no means is it worth $149, because it kicks the butt of airbrushes twice and 3 times the price. And everyone who has those airbrushes, you know, who actually purchase them, will tell you that there's no difference in the amount of quality that you get from this airbrush than those more expensive airbrushes. When I work in pastel, I use the best pastels. When I work in oils, I use the best oils. When I have pencils, I use the best pencils. All that to say this: when I'm using the airbrush, I'm using the best airbrush in my opinion. The best airbrush as far as getting detail and getting in there. So I can definitely endorse it because I use it every day. So you see, with this detail, with this light mixture, it's a little more forceful than the other mixture, right? And so let's continue and go down the center line of her body here, of her portrait. And let's get this center here, her nostril, just like so. And that other nostril is light, so we don't want to put darks just because you know, we want them there. If they're not there, we're not going to put them in. Just pumping that trigger, right? And just hitting those darks. Same thing here. I'm looking for this negative shape. One second rule. And I may lighten that up. It looks like it's a little strong, but let's leave it there and see by darkening other areas that doesn't just kind of lighten up. So we'll definitely wait on that. And so you can see, you know, when we darken those areas, that means the rest of the painting kind of has to catch up, right? So that's very important. Yes, so the JC, the pastel class is at 8 p.m. We did the block in, and now we're going to start doing the subsequent layers of the pastel. Very exciting. So I think you're going to enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to enjoy seeing those who come. The pastel live stream is really picking up. It's really gaining speed, because not only are we getting the airbrush people, which are inclusive because we're using the airbrush underpainting, but we're using pastels, and we can bring this new approach. We can bring pastel painters in the fold, so to speak, and that's exciting. So kind of bringing two mediums, two worlds together, and I like that idea. Mike says, Tim, he's the same way. He used to be the best at everything of art, but when he drinks, he goes where it's free because he blew his wad on art supplies. That's a good thing, right? You know, spend those, you know, I love getting art supplies, but you know what I love more, Mike, is using them up. That's like a badge of honor. If I use up the art supplies, I'm like, yes. I feel really good, you know? I'm like, I nailed this, right? I was able to go ahead and use them, so now I have to go out and buy more. But there's two things. Also, it means I'm getting better, right? Because I'm painting more, or drawing more, or painting in pastel more, so I have to go buy more. So, it's like, there's no choice. I just have to buy more, so I'm sorry. And so that's a good feeling. Get our little magnets, and what we're going to do is we're going to take that same light mixture, and now you want those magnets really close to the edge so you don't get any kind of underspray. People talk about overspray to nauseam, but they don't mention underspray, and underspray is a problem, so we want to make sure we get that underspray taken care of. Ooh, so you got to be careful. Even though it's not skating on the paper and everything's going good, you'll be surprised that that could happen on your acetate. So you have to be very careful. Bring those needles, those magnets close so you don't have underspray. Especially on the face, you want to maintain that beautiful contour and hard edge on the face. So crucial. You want to hit and move, right? Where there is a hard edge, let it be hard. Where there's a soft edge, let it be soft. So there's a nice hard edge here. Just going to hit that. So we're at 11:16, going pretty well. I'm happy. So big step today is we move to a darker value. And as you see, we move to a darker value, things start to get much more shape and start to become even more three-dimensional. But we're in no worry. There's no points for speed. I don't care how fast you did it. I just care how it looks. Now, if you do work fast and that's your normal working, that's fine, as long as you took care of all the objectives that you were after when you started the painting. You don't want to cut corners. So let's see if any questions. Yes, definitely. Let's make sure we get together on that. So what I can do is I can tell you one thing I like to do with the trigger just while we're here, and I want you to try that. So there are these two little things here on the trigger, and I'll blow that up for you real quick, my friend. And I'll even lighten this up. So let's lighten this up. And we'll just focus this a little better. Okay. So there are two actual things. So you see here, you have the main lever and then you have this tiny lever. And the trick is, now sometimes they get kind of stuck together. You want the main lever to be tight, and then the other lever, the small one, you want to tighten it a half a revolution. So right about half like that. And then make sure that you pull the needle all the way forward and tighten the chucking nut. And then see how that feels. It should loosen it up a little bit. And if that doesn't, and then you could adjust it by making this a little less or a little more. And that basically takes care of the tension on the spring. And I find if I want like a real tight, I want to pull back just a little bit and get the ink, I will have this second lever all the way forward, second dial. If I want to loosen up a little bit, I just slowly pull it back and see how that looks and see if that helps, you know. And if that doesn't do it, we'll definitely get together and we'll talk about that, Mr. Todd. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. That usually fixes the situation though. Let's see. Cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my top back, my needle guard back here. All right. So now we're just going to continue darkening the hair here. And I'm going to use my freehand shield. Just get that nice hard contour there. And let's bring back our image. So my guest says, Tim, my guest says, Tim, have you ever erased on a project that was painted, like a portrait on a painted surface? Can it be done safely? So erase on a portrait that was painted, like a portrait on a painted surface. Yeah, you can erase anything. But when you get into things like acrylic, and depending on how thick you put the acrylic on, one of the reasons why airbrush works, especially when you're doing an acrylic, is because in airbrush you're doing a super light layer, so it doesn't take a lot to erase it. You're erasing the most thin layers ever. But when you're working, let's say, with a brush and you're putting thick layers, then you're really not going to be able to erase that. Marcel, how you doing? Great to see you, sir. You're really not going to be able to erase it. But the nature of airbrush, since it's so thin, that gives us that ability to erase, which is really fantastic. Wow, we have 24 likes. Everyone, if you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and hit it, because let's see if we can get 30 likes. That would be amazing. So I love the fact that we're getting a resurgence in this live stream, and on the Saturday night live stream. I think that people are really enjoying the content, and I really enjoy the conversation and everybody. I love the fact that this live stream is a real comfortable, all-inclusive place to hang out and talk about art and technique together, and that's what makes me happy, and that's what the community I really want to be a part of. One that is, we can just be relaxed, and no matter what what it is, the topic, we can feel comfortable to talk about it, and we could ask questions and just really never be afraid to be embarrassed or anything like that, because a lot of times people do that. People are shy, and I want people to feel comfortable where they can just go ahead and let loose and ask any kind of question or comment. That's so important to me. That's the kind of classroom when I do teach, physically. I just want it to be a place where everyone just roots for one another, right? That's what I want. So with this medium, this light mixture, although it is a light mixture, we're able to go ahead and just darken things up just a little bit, get a little more volume in this hat, get a more of a feeling of the light as it's hitting this side, and then getting a little bit darker on this side. And also you can see it's affected by the separation light, which is that half power light that's off to the side and behind her, illuminating the side of her face and her shoulder. No, please, Mike, never. Every question that you have is important to me. So don't worry about it, Mike, if you have any questions. I don't care if it's a question about pastel during my airbrush live stream. I don't care if it's a question about airbrush on my pastel live stream. It's important that you feel, that's what I'm here for. This is not just for me to say, hey, look, I can paint. This is really for me to teach, right? And to give an introductory to those who can't afford to be in my mentorship program, or don't have the time to come here and to talk about art and ask questions and everything like that. So no, always feel free to ask questions. That's what I'm here for. And also, I forgot that I forgot that I had the acetate over, and I was spraying there. So that was pretty funny. So we are 11:25. We're doing great, everybody. So let's move this, and you'll see we'll have a reinforced edge here. Let's see, drum roll, please. Here we go. Pa-pow! Okay, a little bit better, right? A little bit more, but a little bit more to do. We're going to come back in with our detail mixture, and we're going to soften some of these new hard edges a little bit, right? It's nice to have hard edges, but not when it comes at expense to her likeness, right? So with the detail mixture, I can be a lot subtle, more subtle. So I would not try to do this with the light mixture, because it's not the right value for that, right? So that's why you need that 2 airbrush method when you get to the later stages. You need it. It's not like, oh, it's best. No, you need it. You need that 2 airbrush method. it's going to help. Just softening that up here, and also over here. It's a little bit darker here. We're just shaping the light, right guys? Shaping that light. Todd, have a great night, and let's talk about so try those things and let's talk about it, okay? So I want you to instant message me after you try that. If that doesn't work, we'll go further, okay? So that would be cool. Thanks for hanging out, Mr. Todd. Always a pleasure. Yeah, I enjoyed the Witch Museum in Salem. That was actually a lot of fun. Like I said, we went to the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. That was a great collection. Really enjoyed that. Also, if you're an artist, go to Cambridge, where Harvard University is. In Harvard University, their library, they have the Fog Art Museum. And at the Fog Art Museum, they have a really great collection of 19th century English painters from the Pre-Raphaelite period. There's some beautiful Rossetti paintings. I think there's a John Everett Millais. There's a wonderful William Holman Hunt. I believe the painting Light of the World is there. Just amazing. And so the Fog Art Museum, plus to go on Harvard University, one of the finest learning institutions in the world. So yeah, Cambridge is a really beautiful place too. So we did that, and that was a lot of fun. It was just a great 3 days. 3 or 4 days we spent. We arrived Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it was great. It was in April, and it was one of those Aprils where it was unseasonably warm, and that was great. And I remember when we were in Boston, they were playing the Yankees, and man, everybody was like, really, like, you heard the radios and everything. It was really funny. It's like time stood still. They were playing the Yankees, the arch rivals, right? So that's pretty funny. We're at 11:28. We're doing really good, really well. And you see, we're just darkening things up. We worked on her fabric. I think next week we're going to start coming back in with the light mixture, and then we're going to start hitting our initial layers of white pastel. That's exciting, isn't it? So I'm excited. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to, for the last couple of seconds, I'm just going to start with the pattern of the stitching on her hat. Let's focus that a little better. The f-stop is 2.8, so it's hard to focus at 2.8. See how you can do this? This is so cool. I love getting to this stage where things really start ramping up. So it looks like nothing's happening, but au contraire, things are happening. And so we have this beautiful light right here, over here like this. Don't forget, Saturday night, let's hang out. Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to be doing part 3 of the pastel portrait. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Some new innovative techniques, and also some classical pastel painting techniques. And it's on wood, which is really cool. So you see how, you know, now we get to go ahead and really start describing the form of her hat there. And you believe it or not, when you do stuff like, you know, describing the form of the hat and getting more detail in the hat, it really makes the whole portrait really start to pop. And And now we can start pulling out some of the highlights in her nose here. We're setting up for what? The white pastel. That's when it's really going to start happening, right? That's when things are really going to pop, which is going to be great. And same thing with here. We got some nice lights over here. And over here we can start setting up for that white pastel next week, which is going to be great. And I love how things are really going to start turning once we come in with that white pastel. So right now we're kind of like plowing that field. Okay, I gave you an extra minute. It's 11:31. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. It is so fantastic. I really appreciate Brad and David and Honey for the Super Chat stickers. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you want to purchase these inks, you can do that at inkflingers.com. I sell the airbrush and merchandise that helps support the channel, and also, which is growing little by little but surely, is the mentorship program. A lot of great students doing great things. Be a part of that. And I'll see you next Wednesday as well for part 5, and then part 3 for the pastel portrait on Saturday. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Marcel and everybody, you all are amazing. And you made my Wednesday special. You really did. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you, everybody. Take care.